Good morning everyone, and welcome back to Craft Eccentricity, and it's Friday. Yes it is. So we're headed into the weekend and I hope everyone's going to have a wonderful one. Right, today is the final day of the Eiffel Lawn Unicorn project shares, and as I said yesterday, somebody had asked to see how you grunge up acetate. So how to make a vintage looking piece of acetate. There is my scruffy map. I've got a sheet of white cardstock so that you can see what I'm doing if my camera stops going blurred. And we're going to use that Polaroid frame. If you remember, during the week I used the one that's got the heart in it, and this set is linked below. And I have a sheet of acetate which is going to go behind, and it's the acetate that we're going to be working on, so I'm popping that down there where you can see it. And to go with what I'm doing today, we are using StazOn, because we're using acetate, and StazOn will stick to plastics, metals, woods, glass, so you want something that's going to dry relatively quickly. So we're using StazOn. I have some black embossing powder. I've got an embossing ink pad, and this one is a Lena Craft, so I think I've only used this once, so I'm going to use that one because I've got like oodles of embossing pads. Who doesn't? I've got an ink blending tool, and I don't buy the ink blending foams. I just get the cheap felt from Walmart, and I cut it up into little rectangles to fit my tool, and I just stick it on there. That's all I do. So that's another money saver. I've got some alcohol blending solution, and I'm going to be using 4 of my favorite colors today, and they are very old. Yeah, very old like me. And we're using teakwood, which is a gorgeous color. No, sorry, we're using 3 colours. I was going to use golds and I changed my mind. So I'm moving my gold mixative out of the way. So that's teakwood. We've got pitch black. And we also have sunshine yellow. I couldn't actually read that for a minute. You can tell how old these are, look. They've got the Adirondack on the label. Yeah. They're a good few years old, and that one has just got alcohol ink on it and Tim Holtz. Don't even know if that's got a date on it. Has that got a date on it? How close can we go? 2015. There you go. That's how long things can last. But this is one of my favourite colours, I have to tell you. And now that I've got that one, I want to pick this one up and see if there's a date on that. And I bet there isn't. I think these are the more newer bottles, so you know, just to waste a bit of time looking for dates. Nah, there's no date on that. So there you go. I might keep that bottle actually, as it's got the date on it. So there's more proof of my age, you see. And I'm dropping little bits all over there. Now, stamps that I'm using today, I'm going to use that face stamp again, and I'm also going to use that twiggly branch again. So I'm just going to pop those out of the way, because the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to emboss that Polaroid frame. So I'm just going to move a bit of stuff and I'll be right back. Right, so I've tidied up a bit and I've got my embossing pad. I also managed to get myself a scrap of paper. Now I've got this down on my scruffy mat, and I'm just going to stamp that all over it. Now, because we've got a very thin border on this Polaroid, it could be that it's going to curl up when I start heating it, but you know, that doesn't bother me because I'm going to tape it flat afterwards anyway. So I'm just making sure that I've got plenty of my doodahs on there, and then I'm going to carefully pick that up, trying to keep my fingerprints out of it. I've got a scrap there, and I've got my black embossing powder. Just going to take the lid off of that and just get it down all over the place. If it comes out in lumps, don't worry about it, because it will all go straight back into that pot. But just make sure that you've got it all covered. And I think that's it. Then one of the things I like to do is just go along and just press down with my finger, which is why I like to put so much down. So I'll just give that a few taps. Right, so now I'm going to go in with my fingers again. I'm just going to move that out of the way. Make sure it's all doodad. And I'm going to pick it up at that corner. And don't worry if there's any bits missing, because we're going to give it a second coat. Now this is a really fine embossing powder. And of course I've got humidity, and I don't know about anybody else, but it's not really good when you're embossing. And I usually find that I have to do it 2 or 3 times. So I'm just going to tap and get it everywhere. I'm probably going to have to clean up again afterwards. So I'm moving that out of the way. You can see it's very, very patchy. Get most of it back into the pot. I'm going to use that sheet again in a second. I'm going to cap my lid and move it, because the last thing you want to do is put your heat tool anywhere near your pot of embossing powder. And now I'm going to heat this up. Now I know people like to, you know, wave their heat tool around, but it doesn't actually help you. It's better to wait for it to melt and then just slowly move on. So this might take just a few seconds because my heat tool is quite ancient. In fact, I think you all know what embossing looks like, so what I'll do is I'll just pause while I finish embossing and come back. Right, so I did that, and just as I knew it would, it curled up a bit. Now, can you see all the bits that I've missed? So rather than emboss a second time, I'm going to use my black Tombow marker. Now, the reason you'd use a watercolour and not an alcohol is because alcohol will actually remove your embossing. So you don't want to be putting any alcohol ink near that. So I'm just going to get my Tombow, put it flat down, and just go into those edges and take it off. Can you see how it's done that there? And do this big corner, and I hope you can see that, because at the moment it's just, you know, it's a white corner. So any little bits you find and you don't want to go in for a second time, just, you know, pop it down, and you can even draw right along the edge like that, so that you're removing any white on the inside. Just put it down flat on your mat. And I can see that there's a little bit there on the outside edge. Now, I know that Polaroids aren't vintage, but you know, this is one of those let your imagination run riot days. And so I think I've got all my white bits. There might be a little bit there. I'm just going up to it, and your watercolour will not hurt your embossing at all. So I think we're pretty much black with our embossing. There might be a little bit that I've missed there, but I'll just, you know, just tickle it, and I think that's pretty much it. So we now have our, can you see all the dimples in that? Now if you've got yourself a film strip, you would do exactly the same thing. You would cut your film strip out in your white cardstock, you would emboss it, get it all, you know, sort of like different depths and all crinkly wrinkly like that, and then your acetate piece that I'm using for my Polaroid, it would obviously be your film strip that would go behind it. But I figured, as that's kind of small, I've got a bit down here, I'd stick with the Polaroid so that you can see it. Alright, so I'm just going slowly along here with my Tombow, taking out that edge. And there you have it. So that's all completely black. The fact that it's curled up, you know, that's okay. That's going to go flat in a minute. Right, I'm just going to have a little squirt on my table. A little bit of water to take that up. And then we're going to get stuck into the acetate. Right, so I've got a sheet of white cardstock so that you can see what's happening. I'm going to leave my other Polaroid over there at the moment, and I'm putting my sheet of acetate down. Now I can see a little black mark. Oh, it's on the cardstock. So we've got that down, and the first thing we want to do is our alcohol inks. So I'm bringing in those three colours that I said, which are the pitch black, teakwood and yellow sunshine, my blending solution, and also my tool. Now I'm actually going to load my colour straight to the acetate, and we are going to blend these. And I don't want it to be kind of too dark in the centre, so just one splash of black. And then I'm going to put my blending solution onto my tool. So I'm just, you know, however much you want to use, but I do want to kind of like spread this bit out quite a way. So now we're just going to pick that colour up and we're going to move it around. And I hope that the white cardstock underneath is helping you to be able to see exactly what's going on here. Now I do want smaller cells, so I'm just going to dibble that up and down. And I think I may go in with a little bit more teak. I'm going to go straight into the middle there. Isn't it lovely the way it just spreads out? Ooh, I really like that. But as I said, you know, not too dark. Otherwise you're not going to be able to see your stamped image. Which is why you kind of like want to blister your cells quite a bit and just keep tapping it. You want it to look kind of smoky and dirty. Yeah, like that. I think I've got enough of those colours there. And then I just want to sort of like clear the centre. Right, now what you can also do is get yourself a clean piece of kitchen paper. And I'm doing that now. And I will be able to use some alcohol blending solution on that after to clear an area after I have stamped. Now I've got my stamp here. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm pretty sure it's leaked all through, but I think it's going to be easier to see from that side. You can see I've got that large almost clear area here, and I want to be able to get my stamp down into that region. So I've got my stamp. I'm trying to move stuff out of the way. I'm going to push that. I've got my stamp here. Now when you're using StazOn onto acetate, first of all don't do that, because you need to remove the lid so that keeps your ink nice and fresh. Stamp it up really well, and you do not want to press down hard. If you press down hard, the chances of you sliding increase exponentially. There's a nice word for this morning. And we don't want to do that. We just want to go down. You can see I haven't smudged. A lot of people would probably prefer to use a stamp platform. And then I'm coming up. so you've still got a nice clear image. Now that is going to take a few seconds to dry, so I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Right, that's almost dry, and next up is this stamp here, and I've got it on a really old stamp block, and I'm just inking that up with some StazOn too. And remember, your alcohol ink is on the opposite side to your stamping. And once again, just really lightly, we want to go down with this. I'm making sure that I've got room because it's such a big stamp block. And I'm going to go there. I'm going to lift it away. So we've stamped up the side there. And I'm going to use this stamp all the way around. Now, one of the nice things about StazOn on acetate is you usually find that you can get a good second stamp. So I'm going to go there and peel that away. So that's very faint actually, but I'm inking it up again. And I'm going to do it again. And I'm not going to be able to match it up, but that doesn't matter. And then we're going to rub parts of this back in a second. And I'll tell you something that I forgot to do. I forgot to get my my little sanding thing, so I'm going to have to pause in a second and go and grab those. Now, you will find StazOn will stay pretty damp for a while. But now I want to go off on this side. And just peel that away, and then I'm going to do the bottom. And I'm hoping you can see everything that's going on there. I'll just ink this up again. There we go. That's quite enough for me. I'm just going to go and get my little sanding discs. Right, so this was my little haul, and I got 3 little baggies of sanding discs, and all you have to do is pop it onto your ink blending tool, and you can use them on ink to sand back embossing. It's just nice that it just fits on top, if you know what I mean. So now you've got a little sander, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand the edges of this. So I'm just going to hold this. Remember, this is my stamp side, and I'm just going to go down it and scratch it, trying to keep everything fixed down with my hands so that it doesn't glide. Twice up there. You can see it's just sanded the surface off of that acetate. And now tap off all your dusty bits. I'm going to straighten my paper up again and pop that down, and now you've got a great key there to go along with your StazOn. Now StazOn comes in all kinds of colours. I'm actually using black because I did say I was going to get grungy today, but you can use whatever you want. Can you see that? It's gone into all of those scratches. And it's still a little bit moist, so just hold it by the corners and then just wipe some off. and you're giving yourself a nice little scratched frame. Now I'm going to pick that up so you can have a look. You see that? It's just all pushed down into the scratches. So it's just another effect. Now if I flip that over, that's probably a better look. And now I'm going to go behind again with my alcohol ink. And I'm going to use the teak brown this time. So now we're going to flip it over because this is the sides that we alcohol inked on. And I'm also going to be using some more blending solution. You can see this is already grunged up, but that's okay. And I'm actually going to put that onto there this time. And I want to work in this border because I can see where my stamp is. Making a lovely mess. Ooh, it's so nice to play. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. Now what I've got to do is I'm going to wait for that to dry for a minute, and then I'm going to stick it down onto the Polaroid frame, and I'll be right back. Right, so I've done that, and I've mounted it onto white cardstock as well at the back. So that's what I finished up with. There's loads and loads of different textures and stuff going on there. And there's only one more thing that I want to do, and that is I've got my little doodah machine that I had for a couple of years, I think now, from Amazon. And I just want to make a little tape to go onto the bottom. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get my fingers in there and grab that out. Move that out of the way. Peel my sticky off the back. I want to find the centre, so I'm going to stand up. I'm just going to go there, I think. There we are. Now we have some joy. Yes, I really enjoyed this week. It's been different. But I will be up on Monday with a design team haul from KS Craft. And while it's on my mind, so that I can tell you, I have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, so I'll be up with makes from my design team haul on Wednesday. Right, I thank you so much for joining me today. Have an absolutely awesome weekend, and as usual, all links below. Bye.